Coming up today on the Prosperity Nation podcast.
That's the last thing I would want to see anyone that I know is like their parents pass away and then they're upset about some weird inheritance situation that could have been easily handled with a conversation or something. At least you can talk and hear what they have to say about it if they decide to do something that might not be favorable.
Welcome to the Prosperity Nation podcast. I'm Angie.
And I'm Elise.
And we're super glad you're here. Today we want to talk about a topic very politically, or I guess politically correct's not the right way to say it, but family correct, or I don't even know how to bring it up. To be honest with you, let's talk about this. Do all your kids deserve your estate equally? That's the bottom line.
They don't.
Well, Elise has something to say about this. What's going on, Elise?
Well, okay. I have seen from personal experience and observation that oftentimes families have a variety of different personality types. And some children, very politically correct, some children get more than others throughout the lifetime of a parent's estate.
That's right.
And I do not think it's fair that they get the support and then on top of that, half, of the estate at the time of death or whatever we want to call it, because it kind of like, I don't know. It's just not fair. And I feel like I sound ungrateful, but at the same time, like it's just not fair when you see it happen to others either, because it's like, there's always the one child or something that needs more help, which is fine, and I get it. And I'm not a parent, but I could imagine being a parent, you want to provide the support, and if you can, that's great, But then it's like the other ones get neglected, I think.
Yeah, this is really hard choices and decisions that families have to go through as they're looking and revising their living trust and their wills and whatnot about where do they want their assets to go. Now, our philosophy is like, don't leave any assets. Like, go live your life and do great, or give them to the kids as you're leaving. Right. But really, if you've done well in life, then you might have excess. And so the question is, where do you want that excess to go? And parents tend to want to then say, I want it to go equally to my kids. But the point you're saying is, but has it been equal while everybody's been living? Right? Usually there is one or two children in the family that need more help from their parents throughout their life, whether they're 50 years old or whether they're 15 years old. And so how does that factor in at the end of life when you're going to split your assets between your kids? How do you make those decisions? We had one family we worked with, our team worked with them for over 30 years, grew into a multi-hundred million millionaire. And, one of the kids needed support. I know I didn't say that one. I wasn't quite a billionaire. I wasn't going to over-exaggerate the story. Definitely. Okay, to put it into context, we saved them $100 million of estate tax.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's that. Okay. I mean, I'm sorry. I couldn't hold myself together. I had to laugh at how you phrased that.
I know. But, that's cool.
Proceed.
You got it now? You got the scene? I didn't say it right. I know.
They made an F ton of money.
They made an F ton of money. Very famous person. But here's the thing is that because we saved them $100 million in estate taxes, they also got to distribute that $100 million to their kids. So the kids actually had that inherited at the end of the day on top of the wealth that they had inherited throughout their life. See, one thing that we do, and part of the strategies on that higher end, is getting the assets out of the estate before you die so you're not subject to the estate tax when you die. So we saved a lot of money that way. But one of the kids always needed more. $1 million here, $2 million here, 500 here. And sometimes they were gifts, but sometimes toward the later when they started working with us, we started doing loans, family loans. So by the time the parent passed away, one child had to use almost her entire inheritance that she was getting from the estate to repay all the loans that she had taken over the years. So you've got one child that's walking away with over $100 million plus all the assets she had received over the 30 years and whatever she did with them. And the other one who would probably lose her house in 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's always that child that has that need. So how do you, what do you do?
I mean, it's hard because it's not like, especially with money and your children, like $50 here, 200 here. It's like, are you going to create like a spreadsheet? And just
Well, that would be on Elise's refrigerator.
That would be me. But no one else is like that. But so how do you actually keep track of all this money that you give to the other, I don't know what needier child, versus the other one? And it's like, and I don't know. So it's like, that's obviously annoying and nobody's going to do that.
Yeah. Well, and it comes back to, as a parent, we want to help our kids and we love our kids. We want to help them equally. Some are higher earners than others. Some kids are also often families have addicts or alcoholics, children who need special needs or disabilities that, just can't function as well in society. So do they not want to help them? No. They want to help them. There are ways that you can help them by putting special needs trust and allocating resources so they can't just spend it if they got it inherited. And that's really advisable, because if the goal of a parent is to make sure that child is taken care of throughout their life, that's the only way to do it. Because if they're incapable with money, not only would they possibly blow it, but also they can get taken advantage of by, people who want to sell them things, or other advisors or things like that. So I want to make sure, if the goal is to make sure that person's helped throughout the rest of their life, you have to do that by using entities and trust and things to make sure it stays protected. But still, that doesn't, there's always that family member, not always, I shouldn't say always, but often.
Not always.
Often there's that family member that, or doesn't even, I shouldn't even say it that way, because there's very capable family members, but one might make $1 million a year and one might make $100,000 a year. Right. And is going to just generally need more help because it's expensive to live. And that person just chose a career that's not going to ever make millions of dollars, and they're totally a happy person.
Yeah, I think that's hard, because I know people that, because they do well for themselves and their sibling didn't, their sibling is getting more, if you will, in the estate or the will or whatever, just because it's almost like you're being penalized for doing well. And that's like how it feels and how it could appear to seem. It's like, because you worked hard, you got the good job, you did all these things and set your life up in a certain way, you're not getting as much, and they're giving more to the other who didn't have that same, drive. And so it's kind of like weird, because then the other person might need it more because they don't have the resources themselves. But at what point is it kind of like, wow, ouch, that hurts.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, easier to look at it when it's not a person. So if you look at it donating to a charity, charity, sometimes they're desperate for money, right? So then you give them money, but because they're desperate for money, it's because they don't know how to manage money. So they're always going to be desperate for money. So is your money that you're giving them really actually helping them? Or is it just, it's like pouring water into the boat that has a huge hole at the bottom. This is going to flow right out.
It's like enabling almost.
Right. And so the problem's not getting solved, and nor is your money going to the cause you really want it to go to, whether it's a charity or a child. You want it to be for sustainable. Yeah. So, I guess here's going back to another purpose for my philosophy is like, die with nothing.
Right. Give it all away now.
Live your life. Yeah, give it to those charities now so you can see the benefit. Help your children now so you can see them use that money while they're alive. Do the things that they want to do in life with it. And if you know how much, it's like, how much do I need in order to do that so I don't run out of money before I die? That can all be factored and planned in advance so that you can start giving that wealth away to the places and enjoy the giving instead of waiting until you die and half of it go to estate tax, and you didn't even get to see the joy of it going to the people you want it to go to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think, in some cases, like I know for my parents, I honestly don't know that much about their financial situation, but they have a lot of properties, and I think a lot of their properties are also giving them current income. So it's like they can't necessarily just like sell their property or give them to my sister and I because they need that monthly income. So it's like that's a different scenario where it's not necessarily like they have the cash built up to give away, but at some point in time when they do pass,
And there are strategies that they can retain the income and give the asset away. So there are advanced strategies and trust and things that we can do. But, that's where when your wealth starts to grow like that you need advisors to help you with those things, because that is where the advanced strategies come into play to be able to avoid the taxes and keep the income and all that. But it can be done. But as your wealth grows, That's why your complexity grows, because you're saving the taxes, you're protecting the income, you're protecting your goals that are not just your life goals where you're living, which is in that case, your parents don't want to run out of money or stop their income, right? But you also want to be able to, any legacy goals, which, a parent's legacy goal is to have their children thrive and, carry on the next generation. So they want to support that. So it's finding, can you do it now? And how would you equalize it? Right? Or do you care if it's equalized?
You care. Maybe
now,
you don't.
Well, I tell you what, I know. And with that one family that I was mentioning earlier, we spent a lot of time. I did a lot of the calculations to make sure that it was equalized even amongst the grandkids, because the grandparents started giving to the grandkids, and some of it was bypassing the overspending parent. Right. But the point is that, the family who also was doing well taught their kids to do well. The family who wasn't doing well didn't teach the kids to do well. And so it had to equal between 3 generations in order to make sure that the estate was split equally. And that was because the parents had a value, that they wanted it to be equal. And they wanted to make sure that all of this overspending on one or not on the other was properly factored in. But that was specifically because we helped them to define that and get that down, in writing of how to do it. At the end of the day, if there was still money left.
Interesting.
Yeah, so equalizing it comes back to your value as a parent, or you're the person, if you don't have kids, but it's your estate, it's your money. What do you value?
That's true. I'm just saying, though, for anyone listening, that if you're
that kid who worked hard,
that's working hard and paid your way through everything, we don't like it that much. It makes us feel like we're doing something wrong, or we're not as loved.
Oh, Elise, you're loved.
It's a PSA.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's so true. Yeah, and I think, too, it's important, if you are gifting to helping your kids and want to help your kids, you got to think about their spouse, too. It's another element of this. You give to your kid, in one case, give $100,000 to a kid, or $1 million in this real case, and then the husband goes and does something with it, or it goes to the husband's venture, and then they get a divorce. Well, then, what happened? Like, that money was supposed to be for your child to achieve their dreams, and it was just given to their spouse.
But if the child decided that's what they wanted to do with their money, that's on them.
True. Yeah, it is. But if it is important to you as a parent, then you need to structure it differently so that can't happen.
Sure.
Yeah. But if it's not important to you and you're like, no, they're an adult, they can decide to do whatever they want to do with it. And if they go blow it on a weekend trip to Vegas, that's what they do. You got to let go of that. You got to be unattached, because once you give it, it's gone. Yeah, you have to let go of that.
I think a lot of things that you're saying really, and this is actually a question I have, is it sounds like when you're in a certain, I don't want to say category or level, trusts are probably really important to have in place that kind of dictate how the money is going to be used. But at what point should somebody look into that, because I think a lot of people associate trusts with millionaires and stuff, but it's what income level or where should someone be at to where that might be something you would recommend?
Oh, that's a great question. So the purpose of a living trust, let's just keep it really, really simple. A living trust has the exact instructions of what to do with your money when you die. When you have accounts like your IRA account, for example, it has direct beneficiaries on it. There's no discussion on where it goes. It's like that account is directly going to whatever beneficiary you named on that account. But all of your other assets like real estate or, bank accounts sometimes don't, depends on what it is, boats, cars, all your other assets that you have, they don't have beneficiaries listed on them. And so what happens to that asset depends on what you tell it to be done with it in your trust, or the court is going to tell you to do it, because the court has what's called the probate, which says the state has an exact instructions of how they're going to give your assets to the people that it's going to go to based on law. And so a trust puts it all so that you're saying what to do with it, and it will not have to go through probate. And your accounts like your IRAs that have direct beneficiaries on it say where it has to go, so it won't go through probate. So the trust, anybody who has any account, any assets other than maybe an IRA should probably have a living trust, because that's going to say, I want my house to go to whoever you want your house to. I want my real estate. I want my private equity investments. I want my businesses, all of these things. Do you want to have say on where they want to go? You better put it in a trust. Otherwise, the courts are going to tell you how it's going to go.
Interesting. That's good to know. Because I said, I feel like a lot of people I know, it's almost like, they do well, but they're not millionaires. And they I think people associate that with very high net worth people.
Yeah. The basic living trust, applies to probably everybody who has any kind of money saved up outside of an IRA. And, then when you're getting to where you're going to pay estate tax, you've got gifting you want to do, you've got charitable planning, you want to keep the money and give the asset away, all kinds of things you can set up trust for other reasons, for saving income tax, estate tax, asset transfers, all of that stuff. And as your wealth continues to grow and as it expands, you need more and more of those entities to make sure it goes to where you want it to go. Otherwise, half of it could go to the IRS, and that's not what anybody wants. So,
no. Interesting.
All right. Well, this has been a great conversation about equality, right? Equality in family wealth and distributions, I guess, or family giving.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to go have some conversations with your friends and their parents and say, hey, let's just talk about it. Because that's the hardest thing. Nobody wants to talk about money.
Nobody wants to talk about money, and especially when it involves death, because I think it's almost like we just want to pretend it's never going to happen. But at the end of the day, we are all going to die. So I think it's better to have those uncomfortable conversations sooner than later, because it might not happen.
Right, it might be too late later.
Right. And then it's that's the last thing I would want to see anyone that I know is their parents pass away and then they're upset about some weird inheritance situation that could have been easily handled with a conversation or something. At least you can talk and hear what they have to say about it if they decide to do something that might not be favorable,
It's such an ideal world, even no matter how much money or not you have or don't have, those conversations are hard. And
they're always hard.
That's why, we're trained professionals. We have these conversations. We help you make these decisions. And sometimes you have to make special trusts for those kids with special needs. And sometimes you need to do things unequally because, that's what you care about. So anyway, it's defining it for yourself and getting it lined up so it does what you want to when you die.
Exactly. And that's okay. And I guess that's the point is it's your money.
Yeah.
So it's okay however you want to spend. If you want to split it evenly and you do have the needy child versus the not, that's your call. And I think that's important just to stick to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Put it in writing and stick to it.
That's right. Awesome. All right. Well, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories. What's going on with your, giving or your receiving or not receiving because your siblings receiving and you should be. We want to hear from you. Tell us your stories.
Tell us your stories. As always, it's stories@prosperitynation.com. Go ahead and like and subscribe to our podcast. And don't forget to follow us on social media.
Awesome. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thanks for joining us today. Follow us on social media for the latest episodes, updates, and more. Like and subscribe to videos from us on YouTube and find out more at prosperitynation.com. That's it for now. We'll see you next time on the Prosperity Nation podcast.